was born in a small Michigan town.
He was a very good baby.
Raised under the warm Florida sun.
Baseball on the porch, baseball in the pool, the home run derby outside, baseball outside, just, we did it all.
And a star on the fields in Williamsport and Omaha.
Jason Varitek, shortstop.
Jason Varitek traces his journey to professional baseball on the first half of this special two-part edition of the Red Sox Report, brought to you by CVS Pharmacy. Jason Varitek's story begins in Michigan, where his father Joseph and his mother Donna first met at work.
My dad was reading an application working at a bank and sees this application for this woman that's 8'5". And so that led to them meeting because they want to see what this woman looked like that's 8'5", and then he ends up marrying her.
On the application was height 8 feet 5 inches instead of 5 feet 8 inches. So that was my quick response to hire her.
9 years later, Jason was born. He was the second of 4 boys, behind Joseph and ahead of Jared and Justin.
He was a very good baby, but he liked to wake up a lot at night. And when he was really little, when he could get out of bed, you'd never know where you find him in the morning. Find him in the hallway behind the hamper or under the bed or in the closet, because he'd get up in the middle of the night and wander around and go sleep someplace else.
That was in Romeo, where Dad was Jason's first pitcher.
I used to play catch. Remember, I have, just as you say that, I have a memory of learning how to catch pop-ups in the front yard at the house.
He came up to me one day and said, "Dad, want to play catch?" Well, I didn't think he'd catch the ball. So I says, "Tell you what, you take the ball," and I showed him out behind the bleachers. "Throw it up in the air and you track that ball and you catch it and throw it. You do 10 in a row like that, and we'll go play catch." I don't think it was 10 minutes. I don't know if he remembers it. He came back, he says, "You ready to play catch?"
Yeah, I caught them all.
So it went from there. I gave you my word, we'll play catch. And caught every one I threw at him.
When Jason was 7, his father took a new job and his parents moved the 4 boys to Florida.
It was extremely tough on them because they had a big family and everybody's all up in Michigan, and things change that way, holidays and those things for us, and I'm sure it was hardest most on them because my dad was really close to his family, his brothers and sisters, and likewise with my mother.
As Joe and Donna's sons got older, Jason and his brothers grew closer.
He was a mentor, a playmate, if you would. I mean, we played, if you could play a sport and create one in the house, we found a way to do it together. If it was Justin, myself, or him, porch baseball, we tore the porch apart. I mean, the place was a mess.
Football, basketball.
Hockey in the hallway.
Baseball outside, baseball on the side of the house, baseball in the pool. Football, basketball. We combined sports.
When he was younger, his work ethic that he had was, he'd come straight home from school and do his homework, and then he'd just be playing ball in the back porch. That was one big thing. He'd just be hitting balls in the back porch. I don't know how many screens that my dad had to fix.
Coming up, Jason bursts onto the national stage.
Jason Varitek, shortstop.
That's next as the Red Sox Report presented by CVS Pharmacy continues.
Perfect day. We're going to be ready now, live here, with the Little League World Championship game from Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
Most kids dream of the World Series. Jason Varitek first lived it at age 12. His Little League days were spent in Altamont Springs, Florida, and his passion stood out at an early age.
We had a couple other players that were really better skilled than he was, coordinated, better skilled. However, they didn't have the work ethics he did.
Jason's effort landed him on the league's 1984 All-Star team. a team that marched from Central Florida to Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
We were undefeated all the way to the World Series final.
Jason Varitek, shortstop.
We were strong up the middle, all right, with, center field, shortstop, second base, pitcher, catcher. And so, Jason, he was able to play all of those positions and play them well.
For us that were all involved, we were very fortunate. We had a great coaching staff headed by Jerry Thurston.
All right, babe, stand here, take the push, take the push.
They just really taught us and stressed fundamentals. I ended up playing shortstop part of the time on an all-star team that I'd never played in the infield in my life. So it kind of shows you their ability as a coach and to talent, because when our shortstop pitched, we needed someone to play short. But we just played. We didn't really have a grasp or an understanding then that it was this Little League World Series. We just kept playing and winning and advancing.
There's a chopper to the right side. The throw in time, Korea. The ball has sailed in the stands. They have won the World Championship.
Jason's team dropped the final game of the Little League World Series, but life rolled on back in Florida. Pee Wee football was just one of the things on the schedule.
In order to keep track of where we were going, because I worked, he worked, so either every morning, each one had a color, and I put their schedule on the calendar. So I'd arrange for somebody to pick them up and take them, and then we'd take their kids home and go from one to the other.
Yeah,
It's the only way we could stay sane.
My parents are still there, still in the same home. And that place, the whole area has grown up a lot. Since then, it was kind of a new neighborhood when we first moved into it, and it grew tenfold, and just the neighborhood itself. But just like probably most suburban neighborhoods, kids outside playing, running around, and spend the majority of our time outside playing wiffle ball, street hockey, football, kill the man, you name it. We were outside doing it.
Just playing around. I mean, we played game after game after game. You think it, like Jared said, to paper flick football across the family room, to real football in the family room, to me busting my head open, trying to tackle Jay, to baseball on the porch, baseball in the pool, to home run derby outside, baseball outside. We did it all.
And that's when Jason first batted left-handed.
It wasn't fair that I hit right-handed, so I had to hit left-handed, and then it wasn't fair that I hit left-handed. They made me hit back right-handed.
Jason hit lefty against his brothers to make it fair, but his summer league coach saw it as an opportunity.
So I told him, I said, Jason, if you're going to get to that next level, you're going to have to learn to do things that other people can't do. One of those things that you can do is learn how to hit left-handed. So that's why we worked on it endlessly. That's why he worked on it endlessly. I would make him hit one time left-handed, one time right-handed. He hated it in the beginning, absolutely hated it, because he felt like he was letting the team down a little bit because he wasn't mastering it. Jason loved to master everything because he was a perfectionist. But once he got the hang of it and he saw that he could do it at least semi-well on a regular basis, he began to get more and more confidence.
Coming up, Jason heads to high school.
It gave me a full year of JV, and it worked out real well for me.
That's next when the Red Sox Report, presented by CVS Pharmacy, continues. Nearly all major leaguers were once stars on their high school team. But for Jason Varitek, the success took time. He attended Lake Brantley High School in Longwood, Florida, where he still enjoyed multiple sports.
Focus didn't shift only to baseball until I left high school. Pretty much in high school, I played predominantly football and baseball. I elected not to play basketball my freshman year in high school, kind of under the influence that I had a good chance to make varsity baseball, and it lasted about half of a tryout before I was on JV. So didn't really pan out that way, so I kind of missed out a little bit on playing basketball, but with some of my buddies.
But Jason used that to his advantage.
It gave me a full year of JV, and it worked out real well for me because I caught the whole year, and because actually another freshman, it was our other catcher, which is a lot of reason I didn't catch as much in high school.
Like Little League, Jason continued to play all over the diamond.
My sophomore year, I made varsity. I predominantly played in the outfield, left or right, and caught very little, caught during practice, bullpens and stuff. And then my junior year, they made the switch to me to third base. I caught and played third, I pitched. And then my senior year was the same.
And during his senior year, Jason and Lake Brantley captured a state title.
They were down by 6 runs with 2 outs. It's like a movie, down by 6 runs with 2 outs in the bottom of the last inning, 7th inning, as you all know in high school. Nobody on base, and they ended up coming back and winning the state championship. It's unthinkable, in which Jason had the RBI to score the first run in that rally, and then the RBI to the base hit to win the game. Unthinkable, but that team had more talent than anybody.
And other rising stars took notice.
The first time I learned about Jason Varitek was growing up in Orlando, Florida. I mean, we had a great young high school team coming up, but the Lake Brantley team was led by a kid named Jason Varitek, who everyone thought would be a superstar in this game.
I kind of played third like I catch, I just block it. And so I knew my future was somewhere else, and I had a passion for catching. And that's Tech saw me. I don't even know if they saw me catch at that point. I ended up signing as a catcher, to go to college. I knew that if I was going to have a future, that's what it was going to be at.
Coming up, Tech joins the rambling wreck of Georgia Tech.
Even the coach is like, I'm not going to be there for you, you're crazy.
The Red Sox Report, presented by CVS Pharmacy, continues after this. A star high school athlete in football and baseball, Jason Varitek had plenty of options after graduation. He was drafted by the Houston Astros, but chose the college route instead.
Well, that was like his insurance policy. He's going to one of the finest colleges in the U.S. with an opportunity to play ball, and who knows what was to follow. But even if he got hurt the following day, he had continued with his studies, and that he would end up with a Georgia Tech degree, which is a blessing.
My decision kind of came down to UCF, University of Central Florida, University of Miami, and Tech. I kind of wanted to get far enough away to kind of be on my own, and being in Atlanta to Orlando, and I was able to accomplish both.
We were recruiting another kid in Atlanta, and the kid couldn't make a mistake. I couldn't make a decision, and so I finally said, "To heck with it." I told him, "Forget it." We made the other guy an offer, and Jason was our second choice, which is kind of a funny story. So I flew to Orlando, went down to watch him play, and he was playing in summer baseball because in high school he played third base and hit right-handed. But in the summers he was a catcher and he was a switch hitter. So he didn't get to play his position in high school.
It was the right decision for both sides. Jason started at catcher as a freshman.
They had, which I didn't know it at the time, they'd signed a junior college catcher. So he would be a junior who was very well advanced and a real good player, he ended up becoming ineligible. So we go through our fall season, he's probably going to start, I'll probably play some, and ends up in the spring, I end up playing because he ends up being ineligible.
An incoming freshman and future big league teammate joined Georgia Tech in Jason's sophomore year, and Jason made an immediate impression.
How big his legs were, I think those big old quads of his.
Jason's leadership also stood out.
When you didn't know, and he was in between classes, and he'd have a key to the locker room that nobody, he'd be the only guy, everybody didn't know that somebody actually had a key to the locker room, and it'd be Varitek, because he'd go into the weight room and work out in between classes, or he'd, working on his catching, or he'd go work on his hitting, and he would do different things because he had a key, because he was working after hours. Even the coach was like, I'm not going to be there for you, you're crazy.
Jason's crazy work ethic earned him his first All-America honors in his sophomore season.
Well, he just matured a lot physically and mentally. He's the guy that, the first guy probably I let call the pitches. Behind the plate. By his sophomore year, he was calling pitches, and I think, just physically and mentally, he matured a lot. He got a lot better as a player, of course.
After their first season together, Jason and Nomar traveled to Barcelona to represent the United States on the 1992 Olympic team.
That was the first dream team. So, boom. I'll never forget this my entire life. Walked into, it was just a common room that, I think it was like an administrative room in the USA Village, and walking in and walking out, here comes Charles Barkley. He comes over, he introduces himself. You don't have to introduce who you are. But he was awesome.
It's pretty intense, pretty emotional, and to experience that with a friend and teammate was great. I mean, we went through it. It wasn't easy to make that team. We went through a lot to make it.
The teammates returned to Atlanta, and after Jason's 1993 junior season at Georgia Tech, he was named Baseball America's College Player of the Year. The success led Minnesota to select him in that June's draft, and he again weighed his options.
I think the best decision for me was to go back to school, and it ended up being probably the biggest decision that I ever had to make. That ended up later in life, it's going to be the best decision.
Jason knew his senior year at Georgia Tech would be the last of his amateur career, and he had more to accomplish. He still wanted to take the Jackets to their first College World Series, but he'd have to do so under a new head coach. Danny Hall took over for Jim Morris, who left for Miami. And during the first series of the year, Hall knew he had a special player.
Jason Varitek is 8 for 10 on the weekend with a home run. So after the series was over, he comes into me and he says, Coach, he said, what time are you going to get here on Monday? And I said, probably 1 o'clock or so. And he said, well, I need to work on my swing. My swing's not right. So that kind of told me right away that this is a different guy in terms of, how he knows himself, how much he wants to prepare and work to be the best player possible.
The preparation paid off. Jason was named All-American for the 3rd time, and he also received the 1994 Golden Spikes Award given to the nation's top amateur player. But it was the team's result that meant the most. Jason guided the Yellow Jackets to the first College World Series appearance in Georgia Tech history.
We were able to finally break through and get a chance to go to Omaha, and for us, we seemed to become a team that was, I guess, a local favorite. They kind of grab a hold of teams that they kind of like, and we had kind of a huge local support of everybody that goes just to watch the games in Omaha, and that was awesome.
And he hits this one a mile to left center field. Goodbye, number 17 of the season for Jason Varitek, his second here in Omaha.
The sentimental favorites reached the championship game against Oklahoma, but a late-inning close call derailed the title hopes.
You can see out of the corner of your eye as a catcher.
Here's a base hit to center field.
Just to play at the plate would have been third out.
At least one will come home. Peyton comes up throwing. The throw to the plate. He's out. No, he's safe. Varitek looked like he made the tag. Going out to the mound wants to know if he made the tag or not, and now he's going to come back to the umpire.
Tagged him in the back. They called it safe. They ended up scoring like 6 or so more runs that inning, and ended up, I kind of lost my temper a little bit.
Jason obviously was upset. He thought he had tagged the guy. And so I went out and I just asked him, I said, did you tag him? He goes, oh yeah. He goes, I tagged him. So, you know, you argue it, but, you know, you're losing that argument.
Georgia Tech lost the game and Jason's amateur career was over. But there was plenty more baseball to play.
I struggled catching, I struggled throwing, I struggled hitting.
Jason turns pro as the Red Sox Report, presented by CVS Pharmacy, continues. Jason Varitek was drafted 14th overall by the Seattle Mariners in June 1994, but contract issues delayed his pro career until 1995. He joined Seattle's AA affiliate in Wilmington, North Carolina, but it wasn't a pretty start.
Humiliating. I was really humbled. I think I always had a humbleness about me anyways, but it really was. I was extremely overmatched. I struggled catching, I struggled throwing, I struggled hitting. And, but fortunately, they spent time with me and allowed me to develop.
Jason batted just .224 in 104 games that season, and he struck out 126 times. Seattle sent him to the Arizona Fall League, and that's where he met Roger Hanson, the Mariners minor league catching instructor.
You come into professional baseball, and you have to get ready to handle pitching staff in the major leagues, front office, general managers, other big league players that are making millions and millions of dollars. And you have to be the one to be able to handle that entire team because you are the guy catching.
Jason's offense improved the next summer, and he made the jump to AAA Tacoma to begin 1997. But he still needed work behind the plate.
Came in the spring, I was throwing great, everything was working, and I lost it. And I couldn't figure out. Balls started taking off on me, sailing, cutting, you know, wasn't carrying through the bag anymore. Just started going backwards. He came up, it was raining, we got rained out, and you know, Tacoma in April or whatever it was, it's not very warm. So we're out there, we're throwing in the rain.
So we went out in the pouring rain for, I don't know how long it was, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just kept working.
We were just going back and forth, trying to figure it out, and finally I got mad, just yanked the ball, and boom, because that's it. I go, he goes, what'd you do? I said, I don't know. I said, I got pissed and, you know, just launched it as hard as I could. And he goes, yeah, but look at your feet. He goes, what did you do with your hands? And well, I was like, I got mad, I snatched it, and I went one hand into the other. Well, it freed up my feet.
He felt like, okay, I've got something here. I got a feel for this. I've got an idea. Okay, now we're done, and we'll pick it up here for tomorrow and go about and do the same stuff to where, you know, you start getting more consistent.
But luckily, he stuck with me long enough to figure that out. And through my temperament, that it came out in a funny way, but then that's the way I learned, so I figured it out.
Jason Varitek had figured it out, but he wouldn't remain in Seattle's organization much longer. He switches teams and coasts as we continue his journey to Fenway next time during the special two-part edition of the Red Sox Report presented by CVS Pharmacy.